Reno. So it looks like the Easter celebrations are continuing, because right now, this epic Cottontail Dragon is currently available to be earned in the dungeon. So, as you can see, we've got little Harrow the Cottontail Dragon already, so I'm not going to be too salty if we don't get this dragon in the dungeon. Because normally when we get special dungeon dragons, they're here for like a week or 2 weeks time. So, I don't know, I guess they just didn't want to put it in for the last 2 weeks. But we've got it now anyway. So if you head on over to the dungeon in-game, you will see that it says, today there is a chance to win the Cottontail Dragon in the Hoppy Days event. So a fluffy white dragon, that's totally not in a costume, spreads annual treats throughout town, but some want to keep it all to themselves. Well, that is not on. We're all about sharing and caring here. So at base, to drop a dragon in the dungeon, it is 3%. 3% for the base dragons to actually spawn at the end of the dungeon. I am unsure on the exact stats for the dungeon dragon drop rates, but if you've ever heard me speak about the boxer dragon before, you'll know that I have not had a great time with the dungeon sometimes. The dungeon special dragons are probably some of the most annoying things in the game to do, because, you know, the dungeon is really long. It's, you know, you've got to go through 2 waves of enemies for a set of fights, and you can't really lose any of the fights unless you want to watch ads or spend gems to, you know, bring your dragons back to life. But the problem is that even though we have that special Cottontail Dragon in the dungeon, there is absolutely no guarantee that you will get it. It is completely down to luck after you finish the dungeon off. And that's the thing that really ticks me off, because it doesn't matter if I do this dungeon every single day, for however many days that the dungeon dragon will be available, because knowing my luck, I wouldn't end up getting it anyway. I say that, but here's where we get to the end of the dungeon and we get it immediately, just to go, haha, you're an idiot. But the boxer dragon in particular really annoyed me, because I really liked the boxer dragon when he came as a dungeon special dragon like this Cottontail is, but the drops just never came. So, you know, I know that the dungeon is tough in itself, especially if you only have common or uncommon rare dragons to use. Even with epic dragons, the dungeon can be sort of tricky if you haven't fully upgraded your dragons into their level 6 abilities yet. I mean, in the DML Reborn series, I did go through some of the strats that I used, you know, with some really early game teams in the dungeon. So I've been through, you know, dungeon strats and, you know, what order to put your dragons in like a bajillion times before in the past. But if you're looking for ways to be able to do the dungeon with only 1 or 2 dragons total, like, I could use Andy for 3 of the fights and I could use my Hermes dragon for the other 3 fights, and we can reliably win every single time just by using those 2 dragons. There are ways to make that happen with just epic dragons, but obviously since their base stats are lower, normally they require training, sometimes some Dragon Fury Essence, but there is always a way to do it. I remember in the past, like way back in like 2015 or 2016 when I was trying to do the dungeon, I had really bad dragons overall for my team, and I always used to never be able to do the dungeon. I was like, why is the dungeon so unfair? I don't get it. Where? Turns out, as soon as I changed the order of my dragons, I did it straight away. So, sometimes that may be the fix that you require. But, here we go. This is the main part of the dungeon. So, like I said, base odds for the normal dungeon dragons are 3% out of these chests. I don't know if they are slightly higher or anything when we have the special events on. They might be a tiny bit higher. But, doesn't matter which chest you open, it's all gonna be luck. And you know, That is the best chest that we could have gotten out of those 3. So, clearly, we didn't get our Cottontail Dragon, which kind of sucks, but we did get some gems. And, you know, considering I already have the Cottontail Dragon, actually, for me, getting gems is better than anything else that we could possibly get out of there. I mean, I believe if we did get a Cottontail, we could probably ascend it, so that might be useful, but takes a couple of days, who cares. But the dungeon obviously resets once a day. If you finish it off, you can't go back in and do anything. You can only look at the dungeon dragons. I've only got 100,000 dungeon tokens left. I'm gonna have to start getting on it with the dungeon grind, because, you know, if they just suddenly decide to actually make the dungeon viable or interesting, and I have no points to get any of the new dragons that come out with it, I am gonna be kicking myself. Because I always do that. It's like, I don't really do this thing anymore in game. I'm just going to ignore it for 7 billion years and hope that I never have to touch it. But, you know, that's going to come back to bite me in the ass one day. I can already sense it. I can already sense there's going to be a new update with tons of cool stuff. And then it's going to be like, oh yeah, you need 500 bajillion dungeon tokens if you want to get this cool thing. And then I'll have to sit there grinding the dungeon every day for the next 2 years to get it. And I will absolutely hate myself. But I feel like that's just the DML trend. Like back when we only had, what was it, level 80 and 4-star enchantment. You know, I got my dragons up to level 4 enchantment. And then I was like, well, I don't want to do enchantment anymore, it's boring. So I stopped doing enchantment anymore. And then, what do you know? They bring out level 100 and 4 more enchantment levels. So all of those people that had been sitting there, grinding their asses off every single day, excessively I might add, but they did it, and they sat there, they did the hard grind, and they could just upgrade their dragons straight away. Oh no, the idiots like me that were just too lazy to bother to log in. Yep, we got what we deserved, is all I'm gonna say. But to be fair, I do kind of like it like that, because if you just always have everything fully upgraded all the time, like, new update comes out, oh, I already have enough materials for everything, dragon gets max leveled in half an hour. It's sort of anticlimactic, or like, I don't really know how to describe it, but it feels like there's nothing to do. And even though the grind part of this game is the worst part of this game, due to how long it takes, it does keep the game, it gives you a feeling of having something to do. Because in a lot of other games, what happens is you have a linear story, or you have like multiplayer games where it's like, you go play ranked, you play a match, it's done, rinse and repeat. This game sort of has that sort of multiplayer feeling to it, purely because you can just grind for months and months and never get what you want. But it's an ongoing thing, you know, so I think I'd rather have it where I have less items than I need than I have everything immediately. Yeah, I could have the bragging rights go, oh look, I'm #1 with a fully upgraded team, haha, even though that means literally nothing in DML. But some people do that, and I'm really not going to find a battle for Saini here, am I? Well, let's take in some cannon fodder. Because one thing that I've really been neglecting to do in the arena is just manually try and D-rank. Because what I tend to do is I just swap out my defenders quite a lot. But that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is just to go into your arena fights, and if you want to get, say, down 100 points, say you want to go down 100, 200 points, you just go in with a bunch of crappy dragons that you don't care about, you lose your points manually, and you go down, but you don't go down too much, is the idea behind it. Like, it's an obvious strat, but I usually forget to do it, and it is quite a bit of effort, because it's like, I could either go through and D-rank manually like this. Oh no, don't use him. Like, I could go through and manually D-rank, you know, spend the time and effort to do it, Or I could just AFK do it by just setting my defenders really low. But then I'll come back and then I'm at 1400 or below, which I don't want to be at. It's just a really fine balance with the Enchantment League, because you really want to be staying in those higher leagues, but if you want to get easier fights like I do for Saini, it's a very fine balance. And, you know, it's weird that the strategy to benefit you is to lose an awful lot, because that kind of, like, defeats the whole purpose. But there you go. Immediately we get a level 90 Smoke Dragon as the highest, so it pays off. It is really weird how in the 1600 range I find so many like level 90 dragons, but as soon as I get into that 1700 plus range, every single person has like level 100 fully enchanted dragons. Kind of a pain. But you know, it is what it is, but, you know, I think that's the first bit of, I guess, Enchantment League air quotes strats I've used in, like, a year. I really don't think when I use the enchantment stuff at all. Like, not at all. I just go in there, mindlessly do fights, come out. I just don't like to think. You ever get that? Some people really like using their brain, but I hate it. I don't know why I hate thinking. Aren't human beings supposed to, like, want to learn new things? Well, not me anyway, but that means the Enchantment League is out of the question for now, but we did do the clan quest, so it ain't too bad. And yes, for anyone that was wondering what was happening regarding the clan event, this is just a regular, you know, just good old-fashioned, boring event. You can see that we are getting roasty-toasted by this opposing clan at the moment. And I mean, I have not done any quests, so I am partly to blame for that. I apologize, clan. But since we are in League 5 at the moment, we can get pieces for Boone and Cutter, and we don't have both of them yet. So realistically, we should be trying our best so that we can actually get pieces for them, but this is myself that we're talking about. Look, we don't have a single piece for him. What is that about? We've been in League 5 before. We've just never won anything in League 5. Feels bad, dudes. But, you know, that's what you get for not having a competitive clan. If you don't make your clan competitive or set minimum requirements, don't expect to be beating other people that, like, live and breathe the DML and, like, love the clan events. I hate the clan events. You know, it's just all personal taste, but I should do them. I should do them for the reason that I talked about earlier, but I know that I won't, because I'm a stupid human being, so we'll leave it at that. But regardless, I'm still waiting on new news about any upcoming events. If we do see any, I will let you know, and of course I'll guide you through them together with me, and hopefully we'll get a bunch of new cool dragons, but gotta wait on that news for now, so we'll see. But for now, thank you very much for joining me. Good luck in your dungeon endeavors, and until next time, I will see you then.